Daria, first here concerning Iran. Do you believe that all options should be on the table?
I'm assuming you're talking about the military issue that we're facing with Iran right now. I think that we need to consider all options when a country has stated that it will try and destroy one of our allies in Israel. We need to stand up for our allies, stand up for democracies around the world. Iran has made statements that basically have said that to the Iranian president that they support genocide for certain people. There are going to be times, I believe, in the future when we have hard decisions that we have to make. And those decisions may include some action against Iran, should it decide to take actions against our ally in Israel. Iran has made statements that it indicated it's a threat to the world. This is where we're going to have to be a strong nation state and recognize that as a leader of the world, we may have to make hard decisions that we may not like to make, but we will make them. I'm confident that our country will stand up for democracies around the world, and if Iran is one of those forces opposing it, I know we'll do the right thing.
Iran is a rogue state, and we can never allow it to have nuclear weapons. And anything and everything that we need to do to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons, we must do. So we must have all options on the table. Now, what this administration has done is said that any non-nuclear power that attacks us, even with biological weapons, we won't use nuclear weapons. So what the president has done is he has taken an option that we have used effectively for decades, which is a deterrence. He's taken that off the table for no reason. He's essentially given up one of our greatest strategic weapons, which is having the nuclear weapons in place and having everybody know that we can and will use them if necessary. And obviously nobody wants to use nuclear weapons. Obviously. The problem is that when we start taking options off the table, people start testing us. Countries start testing us. And that's going on around the world right now. We are showing signs of weakness, and other countries are taking advantage of that. And the more we take off the table, the more countries like Iran and North Korea are going to step into that vacuum and see how far they can push against us, against our allies, against Israel, against Taiwan perhaps. We have got to maintain the deterrence, and we are at great risk if we start backing down from our strength.
I don't think we should take things off of the table, but we have a diplomatic process, and we have many levels before we need to go to something to talk about nuclear warfare with another nation state. I think that is a case of special warfare, and it should be last resort by all means. We have got a lot of things that we can do and that the U.S. Congress can do, but what we need to do is have a backbone, and that's not what I'm seeing in this administration. This administration continues, and this Congress continues on and on with kowtowing to enemies of ours. We need to stand strong. There are a lot of things that will take some time, like sanctions, but there are many options that we have. So before we rush into anything, I think that we really need to look at what the different programs are, or different options are that we could do to resolve the problem first.
We have 4 questions left. Time permitting, we'll go to Doug next. Would you be prepared to sign a legal document saying you would not raise taxes ever if you break that contract? You would then be expected to give up your seat and step down? Would you want to do that?
It would be a great thing to be able to say absolutely, and I'd love to stand up here and say absolutely, but saying absolutely, I would never raise taxes in any way, shape, or form, would be taking an option off the table. Because when you're in Congress, there are things you need to do to move money from here to there, cut one program, raise another. If all we can do is cut everything and never barter, we're going to be limited. So I would love to say that I will never raise a tax. What I will sign a document saying that on the whole, what I do will lower the taxes. But there are things that go on in Congress all the time. We all know about them, where somebody's got a bill over here, somebody's got another bill over here, you add a little bit over here where you can subtract a lot over there. Very often, you can get a lot more tax reductions by doing that type of thing. And I would love to be able to say, absolutely, I'll never raise a tax in my life. But that's not realistic. And anybody who says that they will never, ever sign a bill that doesn't raise any taxes is fooling you.
Under today's conditions, I don't think that we need to raise taxes. And I agree with Doug, because you don't know what's going to come up tomorrow. What if we had some natural disaster and we needed to raise money? Oh, what do you know? Gulf oil spill? There may be things that we need to do in the future that we can't see today. So I wouldn't preclude that under certain circumstances, if a disaster occurred, if we went into war, not by our own doing, but a defensive war, we will need to supply our troops. And we've seen what happens when our troops don't have the armor they need. So I'd say I wouldn't give a blanket statement, but I would say under today's conditions, there is no need to raise taxes. We need to cut spending. If we tighten our belt and do what the generations before us have done, we will be just fine and there will be no need to raise taxes. If we move back to just 2 years ago with the levels of spending and take off $1,000 per household, as I mentioned earlier, we will balance the budget by 2019. It takes prudence. You don't spend what you don't have, you don't need to raise taxes.